Could Roquan Smith lead the Baltimore Ravens linebackers to being one of the best defenses and the best linebacker group in the NFL? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media, bringing you Ravens content every single day. Now, in this video today, I'm obviously talking about the linebacker group. I'm talking about Roquan Smith, and if you guys don't know, it's also the NBA draft day. I'm wearing my Oklahoma City shirt, but let me know in the comment section down below what your guys' favorite basketball team is. I may put out some basketball videos on this content at some point. I'd like to talk about Summer League. I may talk about the draft if anything crazy happens. Shout out to Chris Paul getting traded over to the Warriors. But if you guys ever want to talk basketball in my comment section, go ahead. I love talking basketball. I could do it every single day, but I talk about the Ravens every single day instead. But let's jump right into it. Let's talk about it because, there's been some recent, interviews and things like that and clips of Roquan Smith talking about the linebacker group and, saying, being slept on and the expectations are very high and things of that nature. So I wanted to just talk about the group as a whole and my expectation for how it's going to work because it's different. This is a different group. This is a different really defense than what it's been the last couple of seasons. And I don't say that because we drafted Trenton Simpson. That's not making a major change. I'm saying it's different because we lost Chuck Clark. And speaking of Chuck Clark, it sucks. He ended up tearing his ACL. He's out for the season. Wishing him the best in his recovery with the New York Jets. But overall, trading Chuck Clark drastically changes the Ravens linebacker group. And some people may be confused by this, but if you know where I'm going, it's in the sense that, okay, Chuck Clark used to be our box safety, and the Ravens used to run 3 safety sets all the time. I mean, that's what they did. They had either Kyle Hamilton, they had Marcus Williams, or they had Chuck Clark in the box. Chuck Clark was the signal caller. He was out there every single play, and they like to use 3 safety sets. But now we've lost Chuck Clark, and it became, okay, what are the Ravens going to do to replace that? And rather than going out and signing, so far, currently, rather than going out and signing a safety or drafting a safety, they go after and they draft Trenton Simpson. And Trenton Simpson is kind of a hybrid player, but he's seen as typically as a linebacker. And if he was a safety, he would be just basically a pure box safety. He's just a freak athlete that plays linebacker. And it became, okay, the Ravens are going to utilize much more 3 drop back linebacker sets. And obviously the Ravens use multiple linebackers. They run a 3-4 system, but obviously you're not in base 3-4 nearly as much as you used to be in the NFL. The Ravens run it less than 50% of the time. And if anybody's confused by base 3-4, what that means is there's 3 defensive linemen, 4 linebackers, and one of the linebackers, usually the outside linebacker, is playing on the defensive line. So he's not technically a defensive lineman. So that's where, maybe Adafio Way plays, right? Or sometimes, Tyus Bowser playing the Sam linebacker position. He lines up, on the defensive line and things like that. And when I mean base, that means those players are out there. When you go into nickel, that means one player is replacing one of those linebackers. So Joe Clark is replacing one of those linebackers. And so then it's 3 linebackers and 3 defensive ends. And or defensive lineman, and 1 extra safety. Then you get into dime, you get into dollar, and those other defenses start adding more and more secondary pieces in rather than just having the linebackers. But that's general overview, base 3-4 defense. 4-3 is 4 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers. Don't want to talk about that too much. I love talking about, just base football as well, but don't want that to be the point of this video. But the Ravens have lost their nickel safety. They've lost the guy that they've been utilizing as that player that's going to be substituted. So that means that the Ravens linebackers are going to be playing a lot more. Not saying the Ravens won't run 3 safety sets. They will. They have Kyle Hamilton. He can play in the box. They have Marcus Williams. He can play in the box. They have a ton of different safeties that can play all over, whether it's over the top or in the box as well. They got Geno Stone. They have Brandon Stevens. They've got, undrafted rookies. They've got, let's see, I know I'm missing somebody, and I don't want to miss out on saying their name. Let's see here. Ardarius Washington. That's it. I was like, I swear I'm missing somebody. We have Ardarius Washington as well who can play in the nickel. But that means that we are going to be utilizing Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen as a duo a lot, in addition to having Tyus Bowser out there consistently and utilizing Trenton Simpson. And that's different from what the Ravens have done the last 4 or 5 years, really, since we had Chuck Clark. I mean, you look back even to, 2016, when the Ravens had Eric Weddle and Tony Jefferson. They still like to utilize the 3 safety sets. Back then we used to have Ladarius Webb, and Ladarius Webb had transitioned over to safety, and he would play over the top, and we get Tony Jefferson in the box a lot. And it was just like, that's been a staple of the Ravens defense, is utilizing a ton of nickel and less linebackers than maybe, what you would think of in a traditional defense. But now, I think the Ravens are going to be going back to having more linebackers out there on the field. And that's not necessarily because they're just like, linebackers are better. I think it's because of the linebackers that they have. All athletic players. I would say Roquan Smith is an incredibly intelligent player. Patrick Queen is a very aggressive player. And then Trenton Simpson is just a freak athlete. He's the most athletic player that the Ravens have, maybe on that entire defense, maybe on the entire team. I don't know. Don't start that debate with me. I don't know. Maybe he isn't. Maybe he is. I think it's close. But they have all those players, and they are able to utilize them because they have the speed of a safety. They have the speed of a defensive back, right? And what's interesting is the Ravens have actually they've gone crazy fast linebackers, but then they've kind of transitioned to slower cornerbacks and slower secondary. Just a really interesting, kind of scheme and team construction that they've done there. Drafting Kaya Blue Kelly, who's not very fast. Signed Roquan Sin, again, not very fast. Marlon Humphrey, good speed. Kyle Hamilton didn't have a great pro day or combine in terms of his speed when he got drafted. I think he's a good athlete, but overall, how is this linebacker core going to work? Obviously, I think Roquan Smith is going to be that Mike linebacker. He's going to be the signal caller of the defense, but they're going to have to play with Patrick Queen very well, because Patrick Queen, when he was playing with Roquan Smith, definitely took it up a notch, but that doesn't mean he was perfect. That doesn't mean he was a Pro Bowler. It means he was better. And I think he's going to have to take that next step if the Ravens want to end up keeping him. I don't expect the Ravens to keep him. And, obviously I hope he has a great season. I wish the best for him in his career. But overall, you look at Roquan Smith and you look at Patrick Queen, and it's like, okay, they can play together. They're a dynamic duo, but they're going to need them in pass coverage, especially, as well as Trenton Simpson. Patrick Queen, what has he been good at in his career? It's been rushing the passer. It's been being that quarterback spy. It's been being aggressive in the run game, okay? Trying to fill holes, trying to blitz. That's what he's been great at. And he's been very good at it. He's been one of the best blitzing linebackers in the NFL from the middle linebacker position. But that's not necessarily what the Ravens are going to need from him. If we're not having Chuck Clark out there, we need Patrick Queen to step up in his coverage skills. And we need Trenton Simpson to step up in his coverage skills. As a rookie, we are going to need that. And it's not going to be very pretty right away. I don't expect that. I think it's going to be a slow start to the season for the linebacker core. I think it's going to be a good start for the overall defense, but I think the linebacker room is going to struggle a little bit trying to figure out their footing and get that chemistry as a trio, as a unit of, okay, when we're playing zone, how do we pass off, right? How do we adjust to the motions when all three are in coverage? Because it's easy when one of them's blitzing, is you're able to just rotate. But when they're all in coverage and you start seeing maybe Travis Kelce shifting across the line, okay, we got to switch. Okay, you're now covering him. Oh, well, when we're relying on those linebackers to cover elite tight ends, because there's good tight ends in the Ravens division even. You look at Pat Freiermuth. I think he's a solid tight end. But the Ravens do play some other teams. They play, I believe, the Jacksonville Jaguars this year. They've got Evan Ingram. They play against the, let's see. Oh, they might not play the Jaguars this year. I might be mistaken in that. But they play, oh, no, I think they do. I think they do play the Jaguars. They play the Titans. They're known for using their tight ends a lot. They got Chigo out of Maryland. And then they play the Colts. They've got Mo Alley Cox. I don't know if you guys have seen that video, Mo Alley Cox. But those are obviously aren't the best tight ends in the NFL, but when you play against the Chiefs in the playoff teams have good tight ends. Kincaid for the Bills. Chiefs, obviously Travis Kelce. They practice against Mark Andrews, which I think is a big help, but I think this Ravens defense is going to be special. I think it's going to be top 5 in the NFL. I think it could be the best defense in the NFL. But that doesn't mean I think it's going to start off very smooth. And this video, I think, is just me pointing out that it's going to take a little bit. And when something happens in the first couple weeks of the season and people start freaking out about the Ravens defense, exactly like what happened last year. I talked about this last year. I was like, guys, don't worry about the defense. They're going to be fine. They're going to be elite. And everyone was like, but they're giving up so many yards. And I was like, yeah, it's a new system and they have a lot of rookies in the secondary. It's going to take some time. And what happened? After 5-6 weeks, they started to really get it together. Then they traded for Roquan Smith and they got even better. But even before Roquan Smith, I think they were turning it around. I think it's going to be similar this year where maybe in the beginning of the year they do struggle, that linebacker group. But by the end of the year, I think it's going to be seen as the best linebacker room in the NFL. And I think it's going to be seen as one of the best defenses in the NFL. They're not going to put up, 10 points a game allowed like the 2000 Ravens defense. I think it'll be, not the best in the NFL. I think it'll be, top 10, top 15. But that's because I think it'll be inflated by the first half of the season. This is not going to be a defense you want to face in January. That's what I want to get off my chest. That's what I want to talk about. But let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts. Where will this defense stack up? Where will this linebacker room stack up against the rest of the NFL? Thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe for daily Ravens content, and I'll see all of you again tomorrow.